Griot was a person in Africa who's charged with keeping the stories of the village.
Use your voice to do something. Going through hard times don't make you weak. I'm praying for y'all city. If you protesting, keep doing what you gotta do to be heard. Seen a video on Facebook that kind of disturbed me. It's because I'm afraid of failing. And we still asking for the simple right to breathe. When somebody only cares about money and they don't care about your life, why do you give them the time of day? You know what I'm saying? I have nothing but love in my heart for everybody. Integrity. Even if nobody's looking, you do the right thing.
I would like to sit down and have a more intimate conversation with you guys. Death is literally the end of life. Time passes us by. Like we have an expiration date. Live by the sword, die by the sword. I wish that the culture of being smart, intelligent would continue being pushed to our kids.
I'm Griot.
When a Griot dies, it's like a library was burnt down.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Griot. Welcome back. Today's episode, we are getting into Judas and the Black Massiah and COINTELPRO, aka, well, the real meaning behind that acronym is Counterintelligence Program. So, I watched Judas and the Black Massiah as soon as it dropped. And I can tell you that the emotions that were going through me personally, I didn't want to be around anybody the rest of the day. I was angry, I was upset, I was hurt. And the crazy part is I knew the story. I just didn't know all the intricate details, and I also did not know, well, I also didn't understand and picture or visualize the actual crime that they committed, the way that they portrayed it in that movie. We've had a lot of instances or a lot of occurrences where police officers have gone into black people's houses and murdered them. And watching that movie just brought all of that right back, all of those emotions, all of that anger right back. The fact that his pregnant girl, not wife at the time, because they didn't get married, but she had to stand there and listen to a police officer or a Fed, because it was the FBI, say, "Oh, it looks like he's gonna make it," and then put two into his head. That is, if that ain't evil, I don't know what you want to call it. So, first, William O'Neal, who was played by Lakeith Stanfield, originally was 19 years old at the time. He was a car thief, and what ended up happening was he ended up getting caught, and the FBI extorted him and used him to infiltrate the Black Panther Party. And when he did that, he got close to Frank Hampton. He was his security guard, and then he was in charge of security for the actual headquarters that they had. So the entire time while they were moving around and operating, he would go back to the FBI and he would report all of his findings. If you watch my videos, you know how I feel about individuals like this, right? So with how I feel about especially our brothers and sisters who, to save themselves, will jump onto the other team and put the rest of us in danger. He was 19 years old. I'm not giving him a pass for that, because at 19, you're 2 years away from being a grown man. But they were all children at the time. Fred Hampton died at the age of 21. He had already been operating and had his operation going clearly years before. So they had to grow up a lot quicker than a lot of other people did. They were doing a lot more than a lot of us have done today. And I turned 33 yesterday. They were organizing, taking gangs and white nationalist groups and bringing them together. Rainbow Coalition. I'm not going to speak too much into that. I actually tried to reach out to Frank Hampton Jr. Shout out to him. to try and get some information, because I tried to find a book that would actually give me the knowledge and the information on the Rainbow Coalition. I honestly did not know anything about it until I watched this movie. I had no idea that the poor actually stood up together, no matter race, creed, background. They stood up together and they were for the people, the way that we should be, which in itself is an amazing feat, because since then it has not happened. They are literally playing on our emotions. They're playing on our environments, what we have going on. They're putting things out into society to keep you stuck where you are because of what they were doing then. It's a game, and I really wish we as a people, I'm not talking about black right now. I'm talking about black, white, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Peruvian. If you live in this country and you live underneath the poverty line, your voice matters that much to where they would put in place mechanics to keep you where you are. Yes, we have a few people that make it, and they have to go through great lengths to make it, but not everybody has that opportunity. So, going back to William O'Neal, I'm not going to shame the dead, but I will say that anybody that would sell out their own people for gain or to not own up for what they did, you're a Sambo in my eyes. I can't respect you. Like, you to me are lower than a bug. J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. I'm going to get more into detail later on in this video. J. Edgar Hoover served 48 years as the FBI chief, the most anyone ever served. Clearly, J. Edgar Hoover was very racist. He was prejudiced. And on top of that, he's the one that put in place COINTELPRO, which was designed to attack the black political parties. Martin Luther King, assassinated. Malcolm X, assassinated. Fred Hampton, assassinated. Huey P. Newton, murdered. Why is it that whenever we have leaders in the black community, our leaders are always taken out? They don't just pass peacefully. If they are speaking truth, they are murdered. So you would like to think you live in a country where the First Amendment is actually protected and you are allowed to speak out against prejudices and injustices and things that will put you in harm's way or danger because you're being attacked and you need help, and you're saying that, but because you say it, you got to go because you're a problem, because you're giving others like yourself hope. To this day, I personally have never heard them come out and speak and talk about it. I'm still doing research on it. And everyone I've talked to that's researched this say the same thing. They are not going to. But I think, especially after this movie coming out, somebody needs to talk on this. We need to have a discussion. Chairman Fred Hampton, in the movie, I don't know if this is a fact, but I'm guessing that these things are natural, did happen or something like it happened. When he met with the Crowns and the Black Panthers, the leader of the Crowns pulled out a piece of paper, and it was pretty much on the paper saying that the Panthers wanted to go to war with the Crowns. And then Fred Hampton replied to him, that wasn't us. So it shows you the great lengths that these three-letter agencies were willing to go to force our communities to start fighting with each other in the first place. Going back to gang violence. If you know anything about gangs, then you know that gangs originated from the Black Panther Party. or members of the Black Panther Party. At the fall of the Black Panther Party, they started splitting up or branching out, and then you had gangs, which originally were created to protect the community. So the arguments we have today, where, of course, people who are not allies like to throw out, well, you guys got black on black violence and gang violence. It's interesting you say that. Because when we turn around and we think about gang violence, where did it start and where did it come from? First, they assassinated our leaders. Then they made sure that we were fighting each other. Then they continued to let our communities erode so that we could continue to kill each other. And this cycle of blood has continued ever since. They don't care. They'll say all day, oh, we need to send more cops into these communities. Why do you need to send more police? Why are you not sending experts of mental health into these communities? Why is it that drugs were placed into the community by 3-letter agencies? So the Black Panthers simply wanted and deserved the basic quality of necessities in life. They wanted land, bread, housing, education, and justice and peace. The simple necessities of life. And here we are in 2021 in Flint, Michigan. They're still fighting the case because they don't even have good water. They're dying. Mind you, this was back in 1956. So from 1956 to 2021, the cycle still continues. COINTELPRO. Most people will lead you to believe that it is over. I have done some research, and I can tell you unequivocally that it is still going on. It just got a rebranding. Now they call it Black Identity Extremism. On December 12th in 2017, Rakim Balagan, who was a former Marine and black activist, was arrested and held for 6 months. No real charges. Why is that? So, Rakim is a part of Guerrilla Mainframe, which is an activist group in Texas. What ended up happening to this brother was that a year prior, there was a police shooting in Dallas. Had nothing to do with his group. But because he posted on the anniversary of that shooting, because he posted a couple of Facebook quotes or posts dealing with that shooting, pretty much expressing his First Amendment right, which he, you know what I'm saying, he had the right to actually post, they arrested him. They went to his house, they locked him up, they raided his house. They found a couple guns in his house. Texas, everybody has guns. Run the registration, all the guns are registered. They kept him in prison for 6 months. They uprooted this man for 6 months. That means he lost his job. That means he wasn't allowed to be with his family. And then when they let him out of prison, and he actually had to go to court for his sentence, because he could have got a 10-year bid, the judge acquitted him because he didn't do anything wrong. Guerrilla Mainframe activists. So their activities range from food drives, self-defense classes, weapon training, and open carry neighborhood patrols. Does it sound familiar to you? Sounds very familiar. Let's go back to the Black Panther group. They were doing the exact same thing, protecting their community. On the flip side, now let's think about this. This was 2017. We've had white nationalist groups doing more than this, committing terrorist acts and crimes in the United States. No one said anything until they actually ran up on the Capitol. Which, if you go back 3 videos, You'll hear how I feel about that. Rakim found out later that for 2 years, since 2015, they had actually been monitoring him because he went to a rally to protest police brutality. He didn't do anything at the rally. He was just there. So they put him on a terrorist list, watch list. And then when he posted those videos to Facebook, they brought him in. Now he's being watched wherever he goes. And you know what I'm saying? When you start thinking about it, where did they get this information? They got it from a far-right white nationalist website called InfoWars, ran by Alex Jones. So that right there proves that the FBI does watch everyone they consider to be or have terrorist leads, right? But they went to a white nationalist website, saw that he was at a protest, started watching him, and then went in and arrested him. But white nationalist terrorists have been able to do whatever they wanted to, still to this day. Going back to the Capitol, the FBI are talking about releasing a large majority of individuals that were there committing an act of insurrection and terrorism. Our Senate just acquitted the ringleader of the insurrection. If that is not the biggest show of privilege, I don't know what to tell anybody. And then when you talk to people about all of this and you bring all of these facts, the first thing they say is, well, what about the summer? Make this very clear for y'all. What happened in the summer goes back to what I'm speaking about right now. Black people have been suffering and going through this since we got here. It should be no police officer, no law enforcement individual should be able to kill a citizen and get away with it. Trayvon Martin. We should have stopped it there, but it kept on going. And here we are. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. So what happened in the summer needed to happen. And quite frankly, what happened at the Capitol shows everyone that they still haven't learned their lesson. And 98% of the protests that happened were peaceful. They even proved that the individuals that were starting the anarchy during the protest were police officers. They caught them on camera. Police officers brought big racks of bricks and sat them there, hoping that protesters would take them and smash windows and cause anarchy. But they had better judgment, and they didn't. They got on their knees, they prayed, they stood in front of police officers, they chanted, they held up signs. The same thing we've been doing for decades. And then when police officers decided to use aggressive force and heightened force, then things got a little wild. But they attacked them first. So, FBI labeled black activists black identity extremists for the simple fact that you can't arrest somebody for their First Amendment right. You have to have a reason and a cause. So they took a bunch of isolated events and they tried to put them together so that they could come up with the term to arrest anybody that they choose to. So while I was going through my research, some of this I did find on a channel called Vice has their channel. So they actually did an interview with Rakim. And one of the people they brought in on the show was a former FBI agent. His name is Michael German. He's now a fellow at Brennan Center for Justice. And I quote, that a person cannot be investigated solely on First Amendment activities. So the FBI created the Black Identity Extremist movement so they can use it to justify to justify charging any black activist that they choose to at any moment. So anytime a black activist goes to a protest and they decide to lock them up, they can keep them and hold them. Going back to Judas and the Black Massiah, J. Edgar Hoover. For them to arrest Fred Hampton, or Chairman Fred Hampton, they made up a story that he had stole some ice cream, and then they arrested him because he started to them getting out of hand when he made the Rainbow Coalition. So they held him in prison, and while he was imprisoned, they had multiple informants. It just wasn't William O'Neill. They started to infiltrate further the Black Panther Party and cause anarchy within the party to bring it down. Many events that happened, they caused. And then they just blamed it on the Panthers. I want to make this very clear. There is no such thing as black identity extremism. It is perfectly fine for a black person to protect themselves. It is perfectly fine for a black person to tell other black people to protect themselves. I'll tell anybody you should protect yourself. We have to get past hate. But doing that, you're going to end up running into hateful people. And like Malcolm X said, if somebody puts their hands on you, you have the right to take them off this earth. Michael German, and I quote, any government sees protests against its own policies as threatening, that's a political threat. It has an incentive to present that political threat as a security threat to the nation. So the Black Panther Party was a political party, clearly. And they went against the status quo. And because they went against the status quo, and the civil rights movement went against the status quo, COINTELPRO was created to infiltrate and to stop it. That means they wanted they wanted to make sure that black people did not have equal rights like they did. They wanted to make sure that we didn't have a political backing to support us. I hear people talk about, oh, I can't stand a two-party system. It was almost 3 parties, but then they broke it down. They tore it down. None of this is new. Why is it that when black people fight for equality or we want to protect ourselves, they do whatever they can to shut us up? Just the fact that I had to ask that is a problem. Here's also a fun fact. I told y'all earlier that J. Edgar Hoover served 48 years, right? So I went back and I looked at all the FBI chiefs. They've never had a black FBI chief or director, ever. I don't see one happening anytime soon either. It's called power. As long as they have a hold on certain seats and positions, they still have a hold of the system, which means they still can continue to do what they want to do. So J. Edgar Hoover served for 48 years. After that, there were 14 other chiefs. That's in the last 49 years. There were several before him, and not one black. And I've had conversations and people have been like, well, why do they always put out first black woman or first black man or first black anything? It's because it's continuing to happen. First black president, first black vice president, first female black vice president. That's the country we live in. And until we get all our first, it's going to continue to be first. You can't tell me after this that there isn't something wrong with the society that we live in. And I'm open for discussion, and I'm open for thoughts and ideas on how to change it to make it better. But this type of research you can find anywhere. You can find multiple sources. You can go back and you can put them next to each other and you can go verbatim, word for word. And it's right there in your face. Moving on to the next subject. Damaged heritage. Back in 1919, there was the Elaine race massacres in Arkansas. This is right after World War I. So we had black veterans coming back to America. Most of their family members were either sharecroppers or poor. They come home. They run into, the white sharecroppers. Integration still wasn't, wasn't a big thing. And a group of sharecroppers got together and they were trying to come up with ideas to further get them ahead of where they were because they were not being treated fairly. Here we go again, 1919, right? So I think the first day they had a meeting inside of a church. There were kids, there were women, there were members of high status in the black community at the time inside the church. A sheriff and a couple of KKK members pulled up and they shot into the church. Of course, black people defend themselves. They shoot back. They killed one that day. There were 20 people dead by the time they got done shooting into the church. The very next day, they called the state governor. More KKK members came, and they hunted these black people down for days, murdering them. They shot them, they caught them, they burned them, and they lynched them. Our history and our heritage is damaged. But you cannot move past it unless you start talking about it, researching it, learning it, and being open to understanding where other people's issues are coming from. It's stuck in a loop. Everything you want to know is inside of a book. They put it there because they know most people won't go pick it up and they won't read it. If you have not read this book, I challenge you to go get it. I challenge you to read it. I challenge you to sit down, write certain things from the passages, and actually grasp what those individuals were going through. By the way, J. Chester Johnson and also Sheila L. Walker. Sheila L. Walker, her ancestors were some of the individuals that were murdered during the Elaine race massacre. J. Chester Johnson, he knew his family had a dark history. So they went back together, they did interviews, and they found this out for themselves. And even though they were on two different sides of the aisle, they came together to do some healing. If they can do it, anybody else can too. With the Rainbow Coalition, I actually reached out to Fred Hampton Jr. and I asked him about it. Y'all stay tuned because there will be information or books coming out on that. Can't find anything on it right now. The only book that I knew about, they had discontinued, and I'm pretty sure it's for a reason. So I'm definitely looking forward to learning about that. I never thought that people from all these different backgrounds would come together or could come together like that. For the longest time, I never thought it was possible. And now that I know it's possible, I want to know how they did it. I want to know how they operated. And I want to know, how do we get back to that? How do we heal the country? How do we come together? So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got some type of good information. If you didn't, leave it in the comment section. Make sure that you let me know what you thought about the video. Please like this video, share this video, and subscribe. And I have one more segment for y'all. It's called Taking Shots. On this segment of Taking Shots, I would like to take a shot at all the Republicans that chose not to do the right thing and charge Donald Trump for what he did. And then, Mitch McConnell, it's funny how you turned around not even 10 minutes later and then said that he did it, but you wanted to play games. So first, shout out to Mitt Romney and the Golden Seven, is what I'm going to call them, and the 2 individuals that also voted because they're independent. So that makes 9. Thank you all for doing the right thing. If you are a true Republican, Mitt Romney is the way to go. So Mitt, I hope that you run for office, because I would vote for you. This is the second time that you've shown that you have morals, ethics, and values. For the rest of the Republicans, I hope they vote you all out. Ted Cruz, Texas is suffering right now. You chose to hop on a plane and go to Cancun. Then, after you got called out, you talked about your daughter, went on a field trip and you wanted to go see her. She didn't want you there. Let's stop lying. Let's just tell the truth once in a while. You made a bad decision. You chose not to be a leader. You hopped on a plane. You went to take a vacation while Texas is suffering, and now they know the truth about you. So now you're trying to cover yourself up, and you're on a plane back. You might as well stay. I mean, you got mayors. You got other governors. You got other people to handle it, right? I hope they vote you out. I hope I never have to see you again. And personally, if I was married, I'd never let another man talk about my wife. That is insane. Sir, please get it together. This shot's for you. All right, everybody. First, before I close out the video, I would like to say or give a big shout out to Pusha Preem. Thank you for the shirt. I love it. Shout out to Shit Division Media. Shout out to all the platforms on Shit Division Media. Thank y'all for being the family. And as we continue, keep putting out this good information. So make sure that y'all tune into this video, and then make sure that y'all stay tuned for the next one. Catch y'all later. Peace.
Okay.